Welcome to Fat Kids Food Porn. Today we are going to make homemade buttermilk biscuits. If you do not make homemade biscuits after this show, I am sorry, but you are truly missing out. If you manage to perfect this recipe, family and friends will come and visit and demand that you make biscuits and gravy, no matter how hungover you may or may not be. Great thing about this recipe, it's very easy. Today I'm going to do about a quarter of my recipe. It's going to make 3 to 5 biscuits, depending on how big you want those. The great thing with this is you can just multiply it for however many biscuits that you want to make. So first thing we're going to start out with is a cup of flour. I use self-rising flour, just makes it easier than having to mix in all the other ingredients. So you just take a cup of flour, slap it in your little handy dandy bowl here. Ain't gotta be perfect, just get it close. The other thing while I'm in here with this flour, I'm gonna slap it down on the countertop. So that way whenever I get my dough ball out here, it's not sticking to everything and pissing me off early in the morning. All right, so we got our flour. Next thing, in order to make buttermilk, most of you aren't gonna have this just chilling out in your fridge because I sure don't. Great thing, all you gotta do is we just gotta sour it. That's all buttermilk is just some sour milk. So I'm gonna take some lemon and just take couple squirts, put it in the bottom of your measuring cup, then take the milk. We're going to do half a cup of milk. So remember, 1 cup of flour, half a cup of milk. All right, I'm going to let that sit there and chill for a minute. Next thing, you need a 1/4 cup of butter. So essentially about half a stick of butter. Cut that in half. One thing you want to do is you want to reserve a little sliver of this for your pan so that you can grease that up. So that way your biscuits aren't sticking to your pan and pissing you off when you pull them out of the oven. All right, so take your butter. All we're going to do, all right, so the butter is really easy. I just cubed this up. So essentially I'm gonna go 3 ways. So I'm gonna go like this, cut it into thirds, flip it over, cut it into thirds again. Now I'm just gonna dice it off into little cubes. You want to work quickly because this will start to melt and you'll have it all over the place. The other thing is I use unsalted butter. Break that up. We're going to throw it in a little bowl here. Get everything in the pool. Once you stick it in there, just kind of knock it around so that way they're not all sticking to each other. You want to get them in there good and incorporated throughout. So that way you have a great buttery biscuit. All right, just dump your milk right in. Then essentially I'm just going to incorporate all of this. You may need a little bit more milk, you may need a little bit more flour. Just gonna wait and see what the consistency comes out. One thing with biscuits is you don't want to over mix these, so not a lot of kneading and all of that for this. So it makes this such an easy recipe that you can truly enjoy. There we go. So once you get it about that consistency, flour up your fingertips, pull that off. We're gonna let this sit here for a moment. I'm going to go and get the oven preheated. So the oven, we're going to do 425 degrees for about 16 to 17 minutes. All right, so we got the oven preheating to 425 degrees. I've said many, many times, if you don't have cast iron, go out and buy some. It's the only way to do this. As you can see, I put a little piece of that butter in there. All I'm going to do is just wipe it around. If you properly care for your cast iron, they're going to be non-stick already. But this just adds a little additional flavor as well. There we go. And just take that little bit of butter that you have left over, slap it right there in the biscuits. All right, so we've got our little dough ball here. Make sure you keep your fingers and everything well dusted, because if not, you're gonna have this sticky gooiness all over you. There we go, take your dough ball, slap it down. Essentially what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pat this out to about the size of my pan that I'm making my biscuits in. Then you gotta fold this. So I'm gonna fold it 3 ways. This is key. If you wanna have flaky biscuits, you better fold it. If you don't fold this, you're gonna come out flat and nasty. And then I'm gonna pat it out one more time. Again, it's about the size of my pan. This time I'm gonna fold it in half, half again, and then pat it out. All right, so that just created those beautiful layers for our biscuits so that they are nice and flaky. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just take my handy dandy measuring chicken and cut out some biscuits. One thing, when you're putting those in there, you want them to touch the edges and you want them to touch themselves. It just really helps them to rise. As you can see, I've still got some dough left over. So what I'm gonna do is repeat my process of folding and patting out, so that way I can get uniform biscuits. There'll be one left over for the dog because he always gets biscuits and gravy with us in the morning. So he'll be happy that he has his own biscuit again today. There we go. We got our biscuits all set. We got a little bit of dough left over. I'm gonna just throw that away. Next up, I'm gonna start getting ready to make some sausage gravy. This is a must-have wherever you make these biscuits, so just hang out. All right, now we gotta start making our sausage gravy that's going to go over the top of these biscuits and just make this breakfast over the top. So again, you got to start off with a cast iron pot or a pan. Let's get that preheated up, or heated up I should say. I always start with a couple pieces of bacon just to give me a little additional fat. Plus it gives me a snack to have while I'm waiting on everything to come together. Because your gravy, you're going to want to let it cook while your biscuits are going, so that way it thickens up and just marries all those flavors together. It just comes out and, oh, you're gonna love this stuff. All right, so my bacon's getting cooked down here. Pull this off, set it to the side. Get ready to slap in our sausage. Right now, that bacon rendered off quite a bit of fat, so I'm actually gonna dump some of this off. As you can see, that's a bit too much fat. I do enjoy my bacon grease, but I'm gonna dump some of that out of there. As you can see, a little bit left in there. Just help that sausage cook, and that's really going to help with the roux and the base for your gravy. So I'm married to a crazy redhead, so we enjoy its spice in life, so I go with the hot sausage. For the two of us, I only use about a half tube. I think about half a pound. Slap that in there. Kind of start breaking it up. I don't do the sage sausage. I like to add my own. Once I get this broken up, I'm going to take some of that handy dandy sage, slap that in there. What I essentially do just to help really break up the sausage, I'm going to smash all this down, let it brown, flip it over, and then just start breaking it up. All right, so now I got my sausage browned. It's not completely cooked through, but it's still cooking down. Next step is get your flour. I don't measure shit, but I'm gonna get you as close as I can. One of the biggest tips whenever you're doing this, add your flour, but your milk, add it in a little bit at a time. You can't take that milk out, but you can add some more. Essentially, I'm gonna do, with my pan, I figured out I do 5 heaping spoonfuls. Just kind of spread it out, let it soak up all that fatty goodness, and it'll really create your roux that's gonna make this gravy over the top. Then just start stirring that around. Big thing, next step is you need to let this flour cook for at least 5 minutes. That's gonna help cook out any of that flour taste. All right, as you can see, I've got that flour all added in there. Now I'm gonna just let this cook for about 5 minutes. Kind of stir it around, I don't want anything to stick too bad, but whenever I dump in the milk, I'll be able to deglaze that and really get all that crispy goodness in there. So it's been about 5 minutes. Got that flour nice and cooked off. Next up is I'm gonna add some milk. Like I said, be very mindful as you're adding this in until you really learn what your measurements are, little at a time. I'm gonna fill my pan about halfway full with this, as I've made this quite a few times, and I know what my consistency is. Once you put that milk in there, you wanna deglaze this pan. So take your spoon and really scrub off all those little bits and pieces on the bottom, so that way you just get all those great flavors in there. Do this throughout the cooking. You don't want to leave this, if not your gravy's going to stick and you're going to lose a lot of flavors. As you can see, I just kind of go back and forth along the bottom of the pan. You'll feel as you get all that stuff deglazed and off the bottom of the pan. Next up, I'm going to slap some either kosher or sea salt in there, just give it a little bit of flavor. And most importantly, some fresh ground pepper. I cover the top. I do enjoy the pepper. Now we're just going to watch the gravy, stir it. You want to bring it completely to a boil. That's what's going to help it really start to thicken up. Once you get to that boil, you're going to turn this down to low and just stirring and making sure that it's all coming together. If it's too thick, add a little bit more milk. All right, so my gravy's come to a boil. I've been sitting here stirring it. As you can see, I continue to scrape the bottom of that and really bring this together. Move this down to low heat so I can sit here and finish this off. It's going to continue to thicken up and be ready for once these biscuits are done. All right, it's been 17 minutes. Time to pull these biscuits out of the oven, get this plated up, and have a phenomenal breakfast. Oh yeah, as you can see, those rise just perfectly. Got that butter in there. Just kind of get them around there so you get that great buttery taste. Slap them down. What I like to do too is I actually take all these biscuits and I flip them upside down because there's still a nice bit of butter down in there. That way you butter the top of those as well. As you can see, that's where we did all that folding. You see all those nice layers in there. As we pull that out, oh yeah, just that flaky goodness. It's ready for some gravy on top, and we just have us a wonderful breakfast this morning. As you can see, the gravy come out thick, but not too thick. Add some of that on top of those biscuits right there. And I hope that this becomes a Sunday staple for you. This is something we do every Sunday, is make our biscuits and gravy. So the one point of my show is just to kind of help you get out there, enjoy making food. There's nothing better than a homemade food. Quick, simple, and it's really a great way to show the ones that you love and care about, hey, let's have a great meal.